Oh, so we're here today, Education, Environment, Sustainability, on July 24th at 3:10. Can I have a roll call?
Just as a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Simon.
Here.
Ms. Stevens. Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is absent at the moment. Mr. Shrine. Ms. Conwell. There's a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that Councilman Miller is in attendance.
Thank you. Okay, so any public comment?
No, Madam Chair, no one is signed in.
Can I have a motion to approve minutes from July 10th, 24? So moved. Second? All in favor? Aye. Minutes approved. First matter, well, before we get to this first resolution, I'm going to ask Mike Foley and Valerie Katz to approach the podium. And we're going to get an update on their work in obtaining some significant grants.
There we go. Thanks, Councilwoman. Appreciate it. Mike Foley with the Department of Public Works, Cuyahoga Green Energy, the new utility, and Valerie Katz with the Department of Sustainability. We got this pretty cool email last week from the U.S. Department of Environmental Protection saying that we had won a $129 million grant, which in my entire life I've never got an email like that before, just so you know. And so this is kind of the, it's a grant that the EPA put out through, it's called a Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, and it's a national grant. They had like $4.5 billion that was available. And we worked with City of Cleveland, the City of Paynesville, and some other partners to put together a grant that is really a pretty cool, remarkable grant, and that EPA obviously liked. Over 300 applicants went in for this grant money. They only awarded 25 grants. And so the award to us is to put solar on 6 landfills, in 5 in Cuyahoga County, 1 in the City of Paynesville. It will help with this old called Diamond Shamrock site out in Paynesville along Lake Erie. It's going to help remediate that whole land. It's about 1,200 acres of land. There was an old industrial site. So Paynesville is going to put 35 megawatts of solar, which is a boatload of solar, on that site. And also there's going to be this big remediation of that site to allow for nature trails, trails along the lake shore. There's already a path, a nature path that goes along Lake Erie that this will connect and allow for people from Paynesville to be able to get access to the lake easier. It will also, which is this kind of big thing, it'll take down a coal-fired power plant, one of the last in the state of Ohio that is, operates as a peaker plant that the City of Paynesville's municipal utility operates. So it operates like when it's really hot days, maybe 10 to 15 days a year when it gets really hot and there's this big, kind of a lot of load needed for the grid. So they'll turn this coal-fired power plant on. Now, because we're putting 35 megawatts of solar out there, it will minimize or get rid of the need for that power plant. So that's kind of the Paynesville side of it. For us, yes, Councilwoman?
So will this grant pay for the demo and?
It won't demo it, so it'll
Construction
just
of the
take it
plant?
offline, because Paynesville
Okay.
still there's still a
Okay.
lot of infrastructure that the city may want to use for putting solar into their grid. They have a municipal utility, so yeah. And then for us, for Cuyahoga County, we've got 5 sites, landfill sites, 4 landfill sites plus the Central Service Campus that this will put a lot of solar on. So we've got
What, excuse me, what's the Central Service Campus?
the jail site.
Is that
so-
the jail?
Yes.
Okay.
In Garfield Heights. So we've got a site out by the airport, which is the Coltoff Road landfill just south of the IX Center. There's the Brooklyn landfill site where we've already got 4 megawatts of solar. We'll be able to put another 5 or 6 megawatts of solar there. We've got the Harvard Road landfill, which is just south of Harvard and maybe East 71st, East 78th. It goes in between Garfield Heights and Cleveland, which has just been both a kind of a environmental mess, but also a legal mess. It's been sitting in receivership in the courts for like 15 years. So we'll put about 9 megawatts of solar there. There's a landfill site on West 11th and Spring Road and the old Brooklyn neighborhood. And so those are the 5 sites that we're going to utilize in Cuyahoga County. Some of those sites will be we're working with Cleveland Public Power for the city of Cleveland, so they'll take some of that power. Some of that power we'll take for some of the microgrids we're envisioning and working on. So, and it's great for the microgrids, especially because it's, a clean, resilient electricity, but it also, this is free money. This is the nice thing about this is there's no match needed. A lot of these federal grants, you have to have like a 50% match. And so with this money, this is purely free money. So we'll be able to really help with at least the economics of the microgrids as we develop them and build them out. And Valerie, I don't know if I'm stealing all the thunder. Valerie, I should say, was amazing. And so there was a really cool, good team of folks who put this application together. But Valerie was really the backbone of it. So
Valerie, yeah, to come and talk about what it took to get this and what we need to move forward. Are we hiring people? And this is a huge enterprise.
Yeah, I think a couple things there. As Mike was saying, it was just a great collaboration. We had the help of the foundations. We had the help of Power a Clean Future Ohio. So we really had this really hardworking group of people that were really passionate about this issue and helped conceive of it. I think one thing that was really unique about this application was not only, so the application itself kind of challenged us to work across county lines, because really what we're seeing with a lot of these federal applications is they're wanting to see regionalism. So it really encouraged us to work across county lines with the city of Paynesville. And again, it was just this real collaboration, but not only was it a collaboration of different kind of communities, it was also, I think what was very strong about our application was it was a collaboration of 3 different municipal utilities. So we had Cleveland Public Power, kind of this iconic utility, Cuyahoga Green Energy, which is this brand new, very green utility, and then Paynesville Municipal Utility. And so I think that was something that was very different. Like, how often do you see municipal utilities working together on a project like this? Another piece of this is the workforce development piece. So Manufacturing Works, which is a local workforce development organization, is also going to be receiving money to create a pre-apprenticeship program. And this will train individuals, mostly individuals who are underrepresented in this industry, prepare them for jobs and advanced training in the renewable energy sector. So they'll be kind of creating a pipeline of people that can do these jobs in addition to the jobs the projects themselves will be creating. And the other piece of this, or another piece of this, is that, this will deploy 63 megawatts of solar. This will triple the amount of solar that we have in Cuyahoga County. Right now, we have about 14 megawatts, and that combines residential, commercial, and utility scale solar. So in Cuyahoga County alone, it will triple the amount of solar that we have in a 5-year period of time. And that's not including the 35 megawatts that's going to be deployed in Paynesville. So this is huge in terms of greenhouse gas emissions reductions. By taking that coal-fired power plant offline, we're reducing the air pollutants, the volatile organic compounds, the particulate matter, the nitrogen oxides, the sulfur dioxides, all that nasty stuff that comes out of that power plant every time they fire it up. So Paynesville's super excited about that as well. But the other thing about this project is we won't be done with that 63 megawatts. We'll be getting revenue from the project that we can then reinvest back into more renewable energy projects. So the goal is to use the revenue that we get from this project to deploy more renewable energy moving forward. So we're
This
so
is absolutely
excited.
amazing. I want to just state for the record, Council President Jones is here, and we're just hearing about a $129 million grant, which was awarded to Cuyahoga County to deploy all kinds of solar installations in Cuyahoga County and Paynesville. And it's an extraordinarily monumental project, and kudos to the team and Val, Interim Director of Sustainability, right, still? Yes.
I'm a little bit in 2 camps
Oh,
right now.
okay. So, and just briefly, what's the timeline, and are we going to be hiring people to help with this administration?
Yeah, so written into the grant is administrative support. So yes, we need to, our next step, I think, is to talk to the EPA and work through the mechanics of it, but our plan is to hire people to help with this grant.
And we have 5 years to use the money up, so we've got to,
Yeah.
Okay, questions? Well,
Just for clarity.
go ahead.
I think I heard you say Paynesville, so this is not in Cuyahoga County? it's in
No, there are
Paynesville?
5. I'll let them.
Yeah.
6 sites, one of them is in Paynesville. So it was a collaboration between Cuyahoga County, City of Cleveland, and Paynesville Municipal Utility. So
There are sites in Cleveland, in the Greater County area.
5 of them are, yeah.
Thank you.
5 all in Cleveland? Brooklyn? No, there's,
Brooklyn,
are you asking
Garfield,
Cleveland
yeah.
proper? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Cleveland proper.
Cleveland proper, there are the Harvard Road landfill sites in between Cleveland and Garfield Heights. We'll have the jail site in Garfield Heights. We'll have the Coltoff Road site, which is out by the airport. So it's just on the border of Brook Park and Cleveland. And then Brooklyn is in the city of Brooklyn, where we've already got the 4 megawatts. So we'll add on to that site. It's a 77-acre landfill. It's only half filled up with solar panels, so we'll add up another 4 to 5 megawatts there too.
Councilman Tron?
Sonny would be disappointed if I didn't ask the question. Can we make sure or try to make sure that the solar panels are coming from the United States manufacturers as opposed to the Chinese?
Yeah, we want to, not only because it's a good thing to do, right? But also because you get extra tax credits for this. So you get extra points, when actually, we don't need tax credits on this.
Okay, I'm sure,
that's right,
I'm not sure how
exactly.
the government gets a tax credit, but that's all right.
Well, we factored in the direct pay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so using American-made panels gets us extra bang for our buck, basically, by an extra 10%. The problem is, this is the problem, is that there's only certain qualified American-made panels right now, and because everybody in the country who's doing projects wants to use American-made panels, like First Solar in Toledo, which is qualified as American-made, they are, they're ramping up line after line after line, and so we have to get in that line, basically. And
That's a
there's
good
others
thing.
like that as
That's a
well.
good thing.
It is good.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for the question. And Councilman Tron won't like my comment on this, is that we would have had more opportunity to buy American had the state of Ohio not minimized the standards for efficiency and investment in renewable and panels, right? I think everything is connected. But I think we're on the same page, right?
Yeah. But there are other panel makers other than just Ohio, too. There are panels being made on the West Coast and places like that, so.
South Carolina has a couple.
Yeah, North Carolina's making them, right. And so it's a lot cheaper to ship it from North Carolina than it is from Shanghai there. Yeah. What's that? Yeah. We make some parts that are used on some panels, but not the panel itself, to hold it together.
So we met with, there's a company outside of Columbus now that makes American-made solar panels. Problem is, they're not qualified as an American-made company because their supply chain isn't based in the United States. So there's, those are rules I don't understand all the nuances of yet, but we're trying to figure those things out.
It's the rare earth materials that they have to procure, and unfortunately, China controls an awful lot of the rare earth materials. Talon Products, right out here, the stamping company, just not too far from us, they make the stamping rails for the panels, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won't be using some of the rails there.
Okay, listen, good job. Monumental, epic. Thank you so much. We'll be having you come in and report. And just one brief second on the grid, where are we?
We've got four sites we're looking at: Euclid, Airport, Arizona, Brooklyn, and then out by the Central Service Campus / jail, right? Our goal is to get in front, before we go forward with the microgrid projects, we have to get approval from the council. So our goal is, right now, we're looking at Euclid, trying to come in front of you for Euclid in February, January, February, March area time frame. By that time, we'll have, we're in the middle of doing engineering. We'll have a kind of preliminary engineering done. We've talked to a bunch of customers out there who are interested. So we've got kind of a set of criteria that is kind of built into the process. And we'll bring that to you hopefully in January, February. Then after that, with this grant, we were talking about the Airport, Arizona as the second one. It may move Brooklyn up just because it's a lot easier because we've got a bunch of free power out there, and we've got customers out there. So, and we've already got some infrastructure working with Cleveland Public Power. So I think, but first is probably Euclid, and then Arizona and Brooklyn, within 6 months to a year after that. We'll be coming for permission from you.
On that same I mean, with our support for the Blue Abyss, is there any possibility that both the solar and the microgrid could be supporting the Blue Abyss? Because I would think with the astronauts doing service work under the water, it'd be kind of a very, very nice thing to have, not to have a.
Yeah, we've had some great meetings with them, and they're really interested, so.
Yeah, we actually ran into them developing their project over in UK this week. We bumped into them over there.
Okay, thank you. Good luck. Okay. Next item, or first item, can we have that read for the record, please, Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 2024-0289, adopting the 2024 Cuyahoga County Sustainability Plan in accordance with Section 202.18 of the County Code.
Okay, Chief?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Okay, go ahead.
So the resolution you have before you that you refer to this committee is for a 5-year sustainability strategy. It's by ordinance. The Sustainability Department is to submit one to you for your review and approval every 5 years. And so the document you have in front of you, I believe, is really a framework for how the Sustainability Department intends to operate to advance the health of the environment, well-being of people, and sustainable economic development in this region over the next 5 years. And I'm happy to talk through any of it or answer any questions you might have.
So Chief, you were in here last committee meeting to introduce the concepts to this plan, and we actually discussed it in this committee. And now this is a more formal version of that with some input that came from Councilman Miller. Do you want to point out what was added or?
Yeah, Councilman Miller requested that we specifically call out sustainable food choices as an area for a couple portions of the plan. So in the section around Action 1.1, Focus Area 1, around reducing greenhouse gas emissions in county operations, we just called that out specifically in sustainable procurement. So the county does a lot of vending and food procurement, and there's opportunity to collaborate with the Public Works Department to make sure those contracts and vendors are offering lower carbon, more sustainable food choices in our operations. The second place that food shows up is in education and engagement. And so we do these lunch and learns. We engage with green teams, county employees, opportunities to kind of embed it into our healthy employee initiatives. I'm blanking on what that's called right now, the well-being initiative. So Action 7.1, we've added some language around what those engagement topics might be, including sustainable choices around food, energy consumption, et cetera. And then the other input that Councilman Miller offered, which I thought was a really important area to call out, was around energy efficiency retrofits. And so I did follow up with our Community and Economic Development Department to make sure that they agreed that this is an area in which we could advance, and it did seem to be a good fit. So in Action 5.1, we just added some language around making efforts to assist our business to get the resources they need to do energy retrofits. So that might look like some of the work we do with small businesses, or even in collaboration with Greater Cleveland Partnership around making sure our businesses know the resources that are out there, the grants, the incentives, so that they can green their operations and reduce their energy consumption, save money.
Questions? Nothing from committee? No one's asked you specifically, and I'll do it, about the Freshwater Institute that is a concept and a placeholder, a new initiative. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. So the Freshwater Institute is a new initiative here at the county, conceived by the county executive, that really does fall nicely into alignment with the sustainability framework. And it has 3 pillars to it. The first is education and research. This is really about primarily, and at least in its inception, educating youth around our freshwater resources, the ecosystems, building pride and culture in our city, in our county, in our communities as a place that's connected to the Cuyahoga River and Lake Erie. The second pillar is really around the blue economy. So what is the freshwater economy of our region right now? And what do we think it's going to be in 5 years? And what are the critical skills and workforce needs that we need to understand so that our youth can grow into the economy of the future here? So some of the discussions we've been having around micro internships and fellowship programs for youth and young adults in the blue economy. And then the third pillar is around advocacy and access. Working with various stakeholders to have a collaborative advocacy agenda for critical issues around the freshwater economy. What are, the three things that we all can agree on we should be advocating for? That could be around plastic pollution in the Great Lakes or PFAS regulation. It might be around how industry uses our freshwater resources. Can we agree that we want circular models versus extractive models? It could be around nutrient pollution and harmful algal blooms that prevent us from accessing the lake, things of that nature. So, we're still formalizing some of these areas of the freshwater initiative, but we've talked to a lot of stakeholder groups to get some input. We have the Freshwater Fellowship starting this academic year. It'll be hosted at the Foundry in the Flats. And we will be kicking off a freshwater forum. I think it'll be in late October this year, convening freshwater partners to really talk about these three pillars and talk about what we can work on together.
Councilman Tron.
Yeah, on the resources required, do you have a number that you have associated the dollar value of what the
Yes,
cost is?
I have modeled it out between now and 2008, building out that team over time. I don't expect any changes in this budget cycle that I'll be coming to you for. We're going to work within the current budget and the next biennial budget. As grants sunset and staffing hopefully goes up, you're looking at approximately $700,000 in personnel expenses in 2027. And then as that last grant sunsets, maybe about $800,000 in 2028. By comparison, I think our current personnel portion of our budget is more like $500,000 in the 2024 budget cycle, 2023, something like that.
You're going to be increasing it $800,000 or increasing it to $800,000?
To $800,000. And, that's at the discretion of this body, right? And so this strategy you have in front of you is with the caveat, it will take resources to implement. With less people, we move a little slower, we look for more grants, we outsource work as best as we can. If we want to really move this forward fast, I believe the staffing model within the strategy is what's needed to implement this strategy within the 5 years.
It indicates that it would go into the 26-27 biennial budget. You're adding 7 senior management staff, it looks like?
No, so currently there's 2 of us. So we're backfilling a sustainability director position this year. We have one other program officer 3 position currently. So, and I'm there. So it's really adding 1, 2, 3 positions, and the freshwater position right now is grant funded.
Okay, so total, at least based on the report, it looks like that you're going to be asking for in the 2026, 2027, 7 positions.
Total, yes.
Yeah.
So 3 now. They've been running amazing work that we just heard about that grant. And you didn't even talk about the other grant, by the way, you got. There was a school grant with solar.
Yes, solar for schools.
Do you want to?
And really this is the work of Mike and Valerie, and I wish they were here to talk about it, but the Solar for Schools grant, or is she here to talk about it, is another EPA grant. They're working with 5 school districts to do aggregated solar procurement to put solar on schools, and then they just found out they may even get more grant funding to do more solar on schools.
Do you know what school again?
Valerie, would you like to come up and talk about the Solar for Schools program, please?
So, come on up, Valerie, but
Okay, with
to Councilman Schron's point, yes. So this department's run lean and mean with 3. But we'll talk more about what actually is going to be needed going forward after this freshwater program director's grant runs out. That's a big chunk of this, will be. Okay, Ms. Katz.
So prior to finding out about the climate pollution reduction grant, about 2 weeks prior to that, we've also found out from the federal EPA that we were receiving $1 million through their government-to-government climate justice grant to fund our Solar for Schools program. We had applied to them like 15 months ago and heard from them in the fall that we liked your application, but this was really competitive, so we can't fund you. And then we got this notification like 2 weeks ago, just kidding, we can actually fund you. So we're getting this $1 million. Because we hadn't been funded, we had put Department of Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant money into that program and got the ball rolling. So this will add to that money, and it will enable us to increase the solar footprint at our participating districts. Those districts include Cleveland Municipal School District, East Cleveland, Maple Heights, Cuyahoga Heights, and who am I missing? Oh, Euclid, City of Euclid Schools.
Which already have solar, I thought.
Euclid schools do not. Their municipal buildings have solar. And the other piece of the EPA grant is that there will be an educational component, which we did not have in the DOE grant. So the Educational Service Center is going to be creating curriculum to train teachers in renewable energy curriculum so that they can deliver it in their science classes and in their vocational classes as well.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that, Val. Okay, any more questions? We'll keep an eye out. Thank you. Nothing further of Chief? Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that the resolution, we don't need a second reading on this one, the plan. So I'm just going to make a motion for approval out of the committee. All in favor? Aye. Thank you for the plan. Okay, next item.
And excuse me, Madam Chair, just to clarify, you did or did not want second reading suspension? for this one?
I don't think we need it.
Okay, thank you. Resolution number 2024-0290, authorizing a contract with Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, doing business as Starting Point in the amount not to exceed $5,100,000 for management, administration, and implementation of various support services for the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Shauna Rorman with the Office of Early Childhood and Invest in Children. Thank you for having us today. I have slides for this contract and the next. I wanted to just initially say these are two contracts for Universal Pre-Kindergarten. One is for Starting Point, who implements on the ground in the preschool programs, and the other is a direct contract with the providers that we hold through our office, just to sort of contextualize why there's two. I want to recognize Alyssa Swiatek and Joy Welch-Bay in my office, and also our folks from the contracting office and HHS for being here, and Chris Murray as well. And also Nancy Mendez and Kara Porter are here from Starting Point, should there be any questions for them. I always forget which, that's not it. Green, thank you. Okay, so Starting Point is the lead agency for Universal Pre-Kindergarten, has been the lead agency for this program since its inception. All of our work in childcare is in partnership with Starting Point because they are and have been the state designated resource and referral agency for the 4-county area, including Cuyahoga County. They were recently redesignated by not ODJFS, but the Ohio Department of Children and Youth, which is new. And they were instrumental in helping create this model to begin with. So that is why we're here with Starting Point. I'm going to walk pretty quickly through the elements of this contract. I want to start by highlighting two areas of the contract that are new, or two areas of Starting Point's work that are new. One is that we are adding an outreach and enrollment specialist to the array of folks at Starting Point who work specifically on UPK. We heard Joy and her team, Joy is the program manager, Joy and her team did do regular monitoring visits of the UPK sites, and over the last 3 years, we've heard a lot from them about their challenges in recruiting and enrolling families. And so they're really looking for not just support in that area, but sort of like marketing and sort of how do you bring people in, and do you need materials and all of that. And so Starting Point has some of these folks already on their team, but this position would be specific to UPK and would work specifically with UPK providers to target promotion for those UPK programs should they need it, and also help them develop outreach materials, coordinate with community organizations that are having outreach events, et cetera. The second new area in this work is the development of an asynchronous professional development platform. So to date, professional development in UPK, which is trainings, have occurred synchronously, everybody at one time, either in person or on Zoom, frequently on Zoom recently. But we know that that doesn't work for everyone. Their schedules are not always the same. Some people need to do training during nap time. Sometimes nap time is not great because they have other things pulling at them. So an asynchronous platform allows us to deploy training to teachers and administrators, and allows us to track that they're doing it, and allows us to sort of better ensure that the model is being implemented to fidelity. So this is really sort of meeting providers where they are. Things have changed quite a bit. In person, all at one time is really not the way that we do things anymore. So that's really exciting. Starting Point has been working very hard to get that going, and we're excited to be able to offer that.
Shauna, what did you mean? We don't do things like that anymore?
Like
one
this-
place, one time? Is
Yeah.
that post-COVID?
Yeah.
It's more flex time
Yeah.
that parents need?
And in particular with childcare, there's a strain that has been there, but is much more present now with staffing challenges. So administrators in the past used to be able to administrate full-time, like run the site, and they're being pulled into classrooms. There's just more pressure on teachers because staffing is strained. And so being able to sort of be flexible in how that training is delivered and how they view it, consume it. Yeah. And then a number of program elements that are continuing. Quality enhancement is the central component to universal pre-kindergarten. And so what this work looks like is early childhood specialists who work with teachers and administrators to provide technical assistance, mentoring, coaching in 236 classrooms across 76 sites. I'll get to some of those details about the actual population of new UPK sites in a moment. They also conduct what's called an ECHRS, or an environmental rating scale, and this is an assessment of sort of the quality of the learning environment. There are a number of different domains, and the technical assistants, the specialists, use that in partnership with the teachers and the administrators to make sure that we're doing quality improvement all the time. Professional development has been part of this work as well for a very long time. Really what happens here is having a dedicated career counselor at Starting Point who works with the sites to make sure if they're interested in increasing their credentials, getting additional education, supporting them in that. We, along with the state, fund the TEACH scholarship here in Cuyahoga County. That is a state-level program, but we have funds from the state here that are supplemented by dollars from Invest in Children. Starting Point manages that program as part of the professional development work. In addition to our regular UPK scholarship, which is an income-based scholarship, we also have what's called a safety net scholarship, which we fund, which Starting Point manages and administers to the site. This is a scholarship that is intended to keep children in a stable placement if something happens to their parents' ability to pay for childcare. So for example, a family who is receiving publicly funded childcare, the parent loses their job, they would lose access to those public funds. The safety net scholarship supports the child to stay in that placement until the end of the year so that there's not a disruption in care. Resource coordination, 2 full-time resource coordinators that are dedicated to universal pre-K that work with the providers on how to link families to supports and services that they may need in the community. They also work on transition to kindergarten plans and make sure that there's coordination with the school districts where those child care providers are located. Last two, family engagement is a cornerstone of this work. This is an award-winning piece of the UPK model. We've won 6 awards from the National Network of Partnership Schools. Starting Point manages UPK's participation and the training for sites to be a part of that work. There are 2 family engagement specialists who work with providers to make sure that they're really partnering with the families, engaging them in the education of their children. Every site has what's called an action team that includes the staff at the site, the families, and oftentimes community members to really sort of like build out what is the family engagement plan for that site for that program year. So it's a really cool thing. That is a model that comes from the National Network of Partnership Schools. And then they run the MIS system. So Starting Point manages the data system that the providers use to track enrollment and attendance and program participation, et cetera. I want to call out 2 areas of support where we've really collaborated with Starting Point this year leading up to these contracts. First is in preparation for the RFP for the providers. We worked really closely with Starting Point to make sure that this information was available as widely as possible, but also that providers, as much as we could equip and educate them coming into that RFP process, we wanted to make that an accessible experience. RFPs can be really intimidating. Ours is intimidating, I think, for many. And so Starting Point held a general grants training for providers across the county to say, here is what it looks like to apply for grants, and here are sort of some guidelines for doing that. And then our office hosted an information session about the RFP process at the county to sort of provide that education to providers of what that looks like if they were to apply. I think there were 100 attendees at that information session. We are also working with Starting Point. I think these visits have concluded at this point, the visits to the new sites. Yes, so we have visited all 23 new UPK providers to just check in with them, introduce ourselves, welcome them to the program, and sort of in an early way identify areas of support that they may need so that we can relay that to the technical assistants that will be working with them. This is the breakdown of the budget. This is just the first year. We're requesting a 3-year contract. This is year 1. Years 2 and 3 don't look much different. And the breakdown here is pretty consistent with the current breakdown in these categories. So I'll take your questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Yeah, we would have asked you in the past, why is this RFP? Why is it always Starting Point? What changes do we need post-COVID? And it seems like you addressed all those. Thank you. All right, so can I have a motion, please, to move this out of committee with a recommendation? Well, I'll make the motion with 2024-0290 that make a motion to move this out of committee with a recommendation of passage under second reading suspension because of our summer break. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Sure. And then we'll talk about all the contracts next.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Please add my name as well.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2024-0291, making awards on requisition number 13868 to various providers in a total amount not to exceed $26,402,873.16 for universal pre-kindergarten program services.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of you know a lot about UPK, so I won't dig too far into the details except to remind you that this is a voluntary program that is a competitive procurement process where we are looking to build on the existing high-quality early learning system in our county. we have a mixed delivery system in this county. That's really important to us. So our mix of providers always includes public preschools, Head Start, private childcare centers, and licensed family childcare homes. 4 components to this model. We look to increase access through scholarships. We look to support teachers through professional development and coaching. We look to support families by encouraging sites to establish partnerships with their families, but also connecting families to whatever resources they may need. And we look to enhance quality in a number of ways through quality enhancement funding, through supporting teachers to, it's supporting teachers to support the kids with whatever needs they may have in their classroom, and looking to set higher standards around education and class size. Before I get into the procurement process, I want to sort of give you a sense of what's happening in the broader context. So a couple of things locally. What's new this year is a change to the scholarship program and the level specifically. So in the past, we've had a tiered scholarship model depending on income. So as we sit here on July 24th, currently we have 2 scholarship tiers. Families under 200% of the poverty level receive a 50% scholarship. Families between 200 and 400% receive a 33% scholarship. Middle income families are also really struggling with the cost of childcare. So in conversation with the county executive, we have moved to a 50% scholarship for all families who live in Cuyahoga County and have a household income under 400% of the poverty level. The cost of doing that is fairly marginal in the grand scheme of the cost of this contract. So we did look at the numbers and sort of estimate what would it take to bring those families currently from 33 to 50. And I think in a, roughly $7.5 million spending year, it's like $150,000 or $200,000. So for us, it was worth it to be able to expand that accessibility for families. I already mentioned the outreach and enrollment specialist to support providers. We are really looking forward to being able to say that that's going to increase enrollment across all the sites. Our enrollment is getting better. You'll see that this is a continuing issue. It has more to do with affordability and the ability for sites to open classrooms because they don't have enough employees. But we're seeing those numbers climb back. One trend that we really uncovered or became much more evident to us in this contracting process is that the dollars simply do not go as far as they used to. So I'll get to the budget towards the end, but the share of dollars that are going to scholarships using the same estimation method that we've always used is larger this time around because tuition is higher. We also get fewer seats for our buck, if you will, because our classroom funding model, which has been really great, we've done that for the last 3 years, but classroom sizes are getting smaller because children coming out of COVID continue to struggle with social and emotional challenges that are posing difficulties for teachers. And so providers are making classrooms smaller so that they are more manageable. And that means that when you have classroom model funding, the dollars don't go quite as far as they did. There's still, I think, a benefit to doing it that way as opposed to per child, but just to sort of let you know that that trend is happening. At the state level, there are a couple policy changes that implicate or have an influence on our work. The first is that what is currently a 5-star step up to quality rating system for early learning has shifted to a 3-level system: gold, silver, and bronze. This went into effect July 7th. So prior to July 7th, providers that were 4- and 5-star programs became gold. Programs that were 3-star became silver. Programs that were 1- and 2-star became bronze. So there's a whole new rollout system from the state. There's I think Starting Point has like a separate warehouse for all of the new signs that have to go out to childcare providers in 4 counties. So it's a slow rollout process. But this is, their establishment of these 3 levels is aligning with stakeholder feedback and national best practices. Sites that are currently rated have a year to sort of like come into compliance with whatever the requirements that have changed. There is also new this year and time limited, what's called the Child Care Choice Voucher. You may have heard of this. In April, at the State of the State, the governor announced this Child Care Choice Voucher, which would increase eligibility for public funding for childcare from 145% to 200%. So right now, the typical publicly funded childcare program has an initial eligibility cap of 145% of the federal poverty level, the lowest in the country. This Child Care Choice Voucher takes limited time funds and extends that to 200%. Their goal, or what they think they can do, is serve 800 families. To date, the state has enrolled just over 2,300 children across Ohio. Locally, I just talked to Director Gowan earlier today, 371 children are benefiting from this in the county since April. So when they reach 8,000, that is when the dollars will expire, and we will see if the legislature will increase this in their next budget cycle. The third change that I think is going to have implications for us is there are new rules about how different funding streams for childcare and preschool that are coming from the state can be used together. And really the rule is that for the most part, they can't be. So until recently, providers have been able to use some streams of funding together for the same seat. And the state is now saying that each stream of funding needs to serve a unique child. There are some special circumstances of children in shared custody in different sites, but for the most part. So for provider, so that it's increasing access. Their goal, right, is to increase access as much as possible, making childcare as affordable for as many people. For providers who were using 2 streams together, they will now, if they're in UPK, they will now need to use more of a UPK scholarship to support that family than they were because they can't offset the cost for the family as much. So we don't know what this is going to look like. We're keeping an eye on it. I suspect that the Child Care Choice Voucher may offset some of those costs, so we'll have to see what that looks like. Okay, back to UPK. So our process is about every 3 years, competitive RFP process. I mentioned that we held an information session in December of 2023 to give an overview of the county RFP process. We had about over 100 attendees. Per normal practice, a notice of the RFP was sent to every high-quality preschool provider in the county. That list came from Starting Point days before the RFP was released. The review process is intense. We have 51 reviewers that are county employees, Starting Point employees, community partners in the early childhood space, divided into 17 teams, each reviewing 6 or 7 proposals. So we received 111 proposals. 2 were pulled out because they didn't meet the criteria. We reviewed 109 and we awarded 76 proposals. This is the most we've ever received. It's the most sites we've ever had in UPK in one cohort. The funding breakdown, quality funding is 2/3. Scholarship funding is 1/3. I mentioned earlier that the scholarship share is an increase. Currently, in the current contract, it's about 25%. And this $8.8 million total per year is a mix of levy funds at $7.6 million and private funds at $1.2 million. So we do still have funds left at the Cleveland Foundation, and our plan is to spend those down in this contract.
Just a question on the private dollars. Are those, do they have to be used a certain way or discretionary use, whether it's scholarship or training?
At this point, we have nearly spent any dollars that had restrictions attached to them. So these are unrestricted dollars, yeah. Type and location, I have a map for you in a moment, but the number of programs by type, private, community-based childcare centers, 43 of those, 43 out of 76, so over half. 18 sites are Head Start, 11 are school district preschools, and 4 are family childcare homes. And you can see in the second column how that breaks down in terms of the number of seats. You see the shift in school districts. There are a couple that have a lot of classrooms, so their share of seats is higher. Head Start sites also have a large share of classrooms. A 45-55% split in Cleveland versus the suburbs. That's pretty consistent with historically what this program has looked like. I do want to point out, so this is 49 agencies representing 76 sites. 22 of these sites are brand new to UPK. 3 of them had been out and are coming back in, and the rest are continuing. So it is, I mean, I think that's important to point out that this RFP process does offer an opportunity. It is not always continuing sites continuing on. It is not sort of a legacy program in that way. This map shows where the awarded providers are located. And I used to present to you a map that very nicely showed how they're laid out across your districts, and we did not have that for you today, but I did break it out for you so that you can see who was awarded and in what districts they're awarded. This map looks really similar to maps of previous years of UPK. We have overrepresentation on the east side, which is proportional to the proposals that come in. The triangle at the bottom that is like the Cuyahoga Heights, Seven Hills, Parma, Independence, we did not get any proposals from that area, and we typically do not get many from the west side of the county.
Does this mean that no one in District 6 actually submitted a proposal at all, or you don't think any would meet the criteria?
So this is who received an award. This is who received a UPK award. They made the cutoff. We can go back and look at the list of everyone who applied. I don't have that. I don't have the breakdown for all of the proposals, just the ones that are in this contract today.
Okay, were there any that, to your recollection, that came in from District 6?
I don't think so, but we will look.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I was actually thinking of you because this has come up before. I feel like every time I present a
Sorry.
map to you for UPK, and it's often that we don't have any proposals from that district, but we will double check and let you know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Last slide is just a sort of snapshot of how UPK has changed over time in terms of the capacity. You see an increase in 2017. That is, of course, the big expansion. A dip in 2020 that reflects the pandemic. And we are proud to say that we're maintaining that 4,000 seat doubling of the program that we aimed for back in 2017. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilwoman?
Through the chair to Director Rohrman, how is the grant amount determined for each site? How do you break that down?
Sure. So we have a classroom funding model. Full day classrooms receive, if they are in a child care center or a Head Start, $30,000 per year per classroom. If they're in a school district, $20,000 per year per classroom. If they are a family child care home, $16,000 per year per classroom. half of that if they are a half-day classroom. So we have them tell us how many classrooms, what's the capacity, is it full day, part day, and that's how we build their quality dollar funding estimate. We then estimate what their need will be for scholarships. If they've been in UPK, that's very easy for us to do because we can look back at what they've drawn down for scholarships in the past. If they're new, Alyssa Swiatek and Joy Welch-Bay reached out to all the new providers to find out sort of how many of them are receiving publicly funded childcare, how many of them have no copay, how many have a copay, to sort of get an idea of what their scholarship need would be alongside what the tuition cost is and build estimates from there.
I know we discussed that at our meeting, but I'd like the public to know the same
Absolutely.
questions. In terms of the 1.2 private funds, I know you stated that you're spending them down. Can we look for some more private dollars? Is that partnership dissolved or what?
So that would entail a new campaign that I don't have any further details to share.
Thanks for that question. If committee remembers that the whole vision for expanding UPK was with the understanding we would be receiving the private dollars to fund the expansion, knowing that's a finite amount, really. And we'll see. This will get us through this cycle of contracts. So any other questions? All right, great. Councilman Miller?
So the funds that the providers receive, do they handle the scholarships themselves and we provide them money to do so?
We have a process by which they collect documentation from families. They provide it to our office. We confirm eligibility and then add their name to an eligibility list, and providers bill us. So they provide the scholarship to the family up front. Once that family is determined eligible by our office, they give that family the scholarship, a half off of the tuition. We reimburse them for the discount that they've given. So we're coming in on the back end, and we are also in charge of determining eligibility.
So on your list of providers, the first one says Apples of Gold Child Care Center, not to exceed 180,000. Does that money include any scholarship money, or is that only for the cost of running their program?
For that particular provider, I don't think that they get scholarships. That's a pretty round number, but in general, the scholarship amount is included in the award that is in the agenda.
And the money that we give to the providers, what does that money help pay for?
So they have a pretty wide range of ways that they can spend those dollars, all geared toward quality enhancement. That is our sort of guiding principle, is that county dollars in the UPK program should be used to build quality in your site. I would say, based on our numbers, roughly half of the dollars are used to supplement wages and provide benefits. So we have been, and that's true even going back pre-COVID, this program has been supporting the childcare industry in a modest way for a very long time. That usually equates to about $1 an hour more, or $2 maybe. The other half of the funds are used towards family engagement, equipment, special classes, like they'll bring in dance or yoga, field trips. They were using it for PPE, not so much anymore. Joy, what am I forgetting? Other costs, overhead, some indirect if they need it. So it's a variety. Joy approves the budgets that they create to make sure that they're in line with what our expectations are, and then we review they send monthly expense reports.
Thank you.
So you're confident we're getting back on track post-COVID to where we were?
It's slow,
Slow.
but it's moving in that direction.
And we have enough funding to help that progress, right? I mean, it's not as if we had more money, it would create a remedy for the labor shortage, right? That's a big part of this.
It would not fix the labor shortage. If we had more funds, we could dig deeper into the list of proposals to fund. So of those 109 that we reviewed, we could fund more of those. But the workforce problem is a different problem that is related, obviously, but requires a much bigger investment, and one that my office is working on with a number of partners, including Starting Point, Pre4CLE, the Workforce Development Board, the Workforce Funders Group, really trying to build a coalition around advocacy for the childcare workforce, which in turn supports the rest of the workforce, because childcare is, as United Way calls it, a social determinant of work. So we're really thinking about this in a much bigger way. And that will require a substantial amount of funding to stabilize the childcare system, which includes increasing pay for teachers, to attract teachers and retain them so that we are not losing them to Target and Amazon.
Are you working with Workforce Development, the new nonprofit county and
Yes.
ours?
Yes.
Okay,
Michelle Rose is at
Michelle.
the table. Mhm.
good. Okay, I have nothing further. I'm going to want my name added to both, and anyone else adding names to this one?
Mine as well.
Okay, and I'd like to see the applications that came in that were not approved.
Sure.
The whatever, 30.
Do you want the actual proposals or the list and the
The
location?
list, so we can look where they're from. So I'll make a motion that this resolution be passed out of committee and heard at the next full council meeting with a recommendation of passage under second reading suspension.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so this will be heard at our final meeting for the, before summer break, and hopefully it should pass.
Thank you
Okay,
very
thank
much.
you. All right, everybody, we'll see you in September. Oh, wait, I mean in this committee, our committee. I'll see you next week, though. No, just our committee. I mean, good things are happening. Those grants are huge that we were awarded. And so I'm really proud of the work of Sustainability Department and former Director Foley and Interim Director Katz spearheading all those huge projects that are nationally, we're being looked at nationally with our green grid and everything that's going around this with landfills and reutilizing them, remediating them. It's such a win-win. So thanks for your support through this committee.